is so happy to see you over here for our Friends of Taiwan News Conference. 真欢喜大家会当来这参加 Friends of 台湾之友会的记者会。Now I'd like to introduce whoever here. First, from there is our Treasury, George Liu, and then our Activity Director, Catherine Yang, and then our speaker, of course, later have a more detailed introduction, is Dr. Daniel Lynch. And then our respected President, Ted Anderson. And then our Vice President, Ken Wang, Professor Ken Wang. And then our past President, Zhang Xiu. And myself named Tim Wang. And then we have another guest, and he will be the summary translator at that date, Peter Chen. He's an attorney. Now, no other ado, I would like to have Ted, our president, say something about it, about our event.
Thank you, Tim. It's quite an honor for this organization and myself to be able to present to you an outstanding speaker and also a scholar, Daniel Lynch. Now, this isn't the first time he has participated in an event for Friends of Taiwan. Back in 2002, if I'm not mistaken, he was the principal speaker at a very big event at the DoubleTree Hotel at that time, and still DoubleTree Hotel. So it was an honor for him when I discussed it with him, would he be willing to come and on behalf of the Friends of Taiwan, he didn't hesitate one bit. So as you listen to it, many of you reporters will have the honor to address such an auspicious person, however you want to say it, but a great person, Daniel Lynch, PhD in International Relations at USC. Daniel?
Almost said UCLA there.
Almost fall out.
Thanks, Ted. It's going to be a real honor for me to be able to speak at the dinner next Saturday night. I've been going to Taiwan since 1989 was the first time I was able to go. I was still pretty young back then, so I couldn't go much sooner, much earlier than that. And I studied Mandarin at National Taiwan University. That was considered the best place in the world. Foreigners, native English speakers could study Mandarin at the time. Now there are other centers in Beijing and places like that, but they still have that center at Taidan. It's still one of the top 2 or 3 places in the world to study Mandarin. And that's when I first really fell in love with Taiwan, because people were so friendly. And this was when, of course, Li Denghui was about to convene the National Convention, National Assembly, to discuss constitutional change, and he was making his moves to usher in democratization. So even though at the time I was a student, mostly I thought I would be a student of China, I immediately, and I went there like every other naive foreigner, assuming, oh, this will be some, just an appendage of China, something like that. I mean, that's what we're taught. We were taught, at least. I think it's a lot different these days. That's what we were taught growing up back then. But it didn't take long to discover, and actually there's a lot, because I had visited China before. It's very different here. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot of subtle differences, and over time those subtle differences became more obvious. And you just can't help. Taiwan is an inherently likable place. And I was just there again in July and August for 3 weeks. And even though it was really, really hot, in fact, it's been really, really hot here too since I got back. It was just, first of all, I found myself saying, I may have told Ted and a few other people at lunch last week, it was the first time I really realized that Taipei, the city of Taipei, and really all the places at least I visited on the island have become genuinely beautiful in the last 10, 15 years or so. To be honest, I wouldn't have said that 25 years ago. Taipei, it still was not directly electing the mayor, and so it had problems with pollution, with cleaning up garbage and, motorcycles on sidewalks, and stray dogs and all that, and not enough trees and flowers. But since Chen Shui-bian was first elected mayor in December 1994, and began vigorously implementing a lot of changes, I think he set the standard. This would never be acknowledged by his successors, but I think he actually set the standard. He cut the mold for subsequent really aggressive, energetic Taipei mayors to beautify the city, to, of course, make the traffic flow. It's amazing how fast the traffic flows. I also go to Bangkok, Beijing, places like that. And I think, Taipei and Hong Kong probably are among the best cities in the world, considering if you control the population size for traffic flow and so on. So anyway, it's just, and of course there's this huge variety of wonderful restaurants to go to. Everything from really good Taiwanese or other kinds of Asian food, including because you have all these spouses from Vietnam and Thailand and places like that, including Southeast Asian food. Then you've all the Western foods. So now the reason I'm making this point is I still encourage my students to go to Taiwan to study Chinese, Mandarin, at least for a while. They also need to go to the PRC if they're going to be specialists on China. They need to spend some time in Taiwan because if they go there, they like it. I've never met any student who hasn't come back with a strong sense of affection for Taiwan. So it's a kind of a long-term strategy for cultivating positive sentiments toward Taiwan. So it's just a long way of saying I've, for 25 years now, really considered myself a friend of Taiwan, so it was natural. I didn't always respond as quickly as he wanted to Ted's messages because I was kind of really busy. My brother had kind of a minor car accident. He's fine now. And I just had to move and was distracted, so I tested his patience a few times, but he was always ultimately bottomlessly patient, so I apologize for that, Ted. But, so I don't want to, of course, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to say in the talk, because then you won't come to the talk. But you can see generally what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about what I learned in those 2 to 3 weeks of interviewing and visiting bookstores and buying a lot of books, discussing Taiwan's I went there with I'm planning to apply for a grant to spend the 2015 to 16 academic year in Taiwan, writing a book that examines Taiwan's comprehensive security and welfare and the different strategies that the varying people along the political spectrum propose in trying to pursue that mix. There are trade-offs involved, obviously. In some ways, it really helps Taiwan's economy to appease the PRC, as President Ma Ying-jeou has done. In other ways, though, you know all this, right? So I want to explore that. There are reasons related to the content of debates in international relations that this could be valuable and will receive some broader attention in IR. And then, so the bottom line question I had for people, I interviewed people all across the spectrum when I was there, is what do people in Taiwan, people who are in decision-making or otherwise relatively influential positions, bottom line, they call it in this, it's called the Copenhagen, I didn't want to use a lot of academic jargon, nobody likes that, not even me, especially me maybe. Copenhagen School of Security argues there's something called the security referent, which all it means is it's the bottom line value that any society will absolutely, no matter what, never yield on. In other words, this is the value we would fight for. There are a lot of other values that we esteem and will pursue and so on, but you get closer and closer to this bottom line value, you'll never make any concession. So I was trying to see if there is agreement and how widespread it would be on this bottom line, what the security referent would be for Taiwan. And it didn't take long. People all across the spectrum, ranging from Mr. Suu Kyi and others on the deep blue side who were very friendly and very nice. People on the deep green side all said, at the end of the day, no matter what, people of Taiwan must decide on Taiwan's future. You know, Humble Twin said just, as you know, a few days ago, it'll be the 1.x billion people on the PRC will vote or decide somehow But nobody in Taiwan, even on the deep blue side, was saying anything like that. So that's, and the other thing I noticed kept coming up again and again is, at least compared to I last visited a year and a half or so ago. I haven't been able to go as often because I've been working on China and research the last 3 years, but there seems to be, first of all, a lot more confidence than I expected in Taiwan. Of course, a lot of people are worried about the economy hollowing out and a variety of other things, but people I talked to seemed really that they had a belief that they knew how to handle China and the United States. That they've been doing this for 20, 25 years now. If you're a smaller country having to deal with backstabbing and threats and all kinds of unpredictability on the part of larger countries, you really do learn to become clever and nimble and to pay really close attention. And so I sensed that there's not boundless self-confidence, but kind of a quiet sense of strength and optimism on the part not only of the people I was interviewing, but taxi cab drivers. Everybody was smiling. You go into a store and people are smiling and friendly and calm and relaxed and seem to be enjoying life. And I remember asking taxi drivers, always an excellent source of data for using the social sciences. So why is everybody here smiling and so happy, evidently, and calm? Because we had this China problem, the economy's under. And he said, well, we've worked hard for the last 30, 40 years. He was probably 60 himself. And, no matter what, we're pretty secure and definitely comfortable. Look around you at all the trees, the flowers, everything. Why? It's time to enjoy life some and not worry too much. We'll be able to take care of ourselves. So that, and then the final point that I'll stress is that across the spectrum, there seemed to be, if you exclude President Ma, everybody else seems to be coming closer and closer together. Maybe what we might call a Taiwan consensus of some sort. Mr. Suu Kyi has taken over an older think tank. He essentially established a new think tank, but it was easier, less expensive to do by just taking over an older one that was already on the books. It was from a regulatory point of view, easier to do it that way. He has DPP people on his board of directors. And I asked him about that, and he said, well, we really need to tone down the temperature and keep working toward developing common views. And we're not always going to agree on everything, but we need to find out what we can agree on and work together, because we do have a big nemesis across the strait, and we do have a lot of problems to deal with. So that's why the title will be Inching Toward Convergence. Inching means, I'm not saying they're there yet, or that it's a radical overnight change. There will be people on both sides who don't like the change, who don't like convergence, some will even really hate, especially people on the deep end, who be the deep blue or deep green. But at least people I talked to in both camps were becoming more moderate, certainly than 10 years ago, and even maybe than 5 years ago. Even the January 2012 election was very civil and polite for the most part, and I hope we'll see that again later this year in 2016. So I haven't put the whole talk together yet, because I'm still thinking about it and having to do a lot of other things this week, but that's generally what I'm going to be saying. I hope
Thank you, Professor. By the way, since you study the Mandarin or Taiwanese in Taiwan University, can you speak some of this? What do you say in Mandarin or in Taiwanese?
I can speak it in Mandarin, but I'd rather speak it in English just because I've been misquoted by before. In fact, even when I'm speaking in English, I was misquoted last April. I don't know, a few people may have, you were at this event, where the Apple Daily, I found out later, said that I, quote unquote, somebody told me this, I haven't actually seen this, that I was really aggressive with the TICO representative here. They used a really crude term to say that. and I'm not going to repeat it here because I don't want to go around again. But that encounter was much milder and just sort of almost nothing like that at all. So you can ask questions in Mandarin. Unfortunately, I can't speak Taiwanese, although if you know some Thai, I study Thai as well. So you can ask me Thai or Mandarin or English. But I'm going to be, I want to be careful and therefore answer it.
Okay, regarding that event, the youth defense, the Sunflower movement, Peter was there, right? You were there. So can you?
I will
please-
concur with
Yeah,
with
you-
Professor
yeah,
Lynch, because there's a big issue with sunflowers. Obviously, Representative Ling Wu had a position that was not popular with the students. It said something like students should be taught obedience and something like that. And I thought Professor Lynch made the point, but he was very calm. In fact, from students' viewpoint, we thought, come on, Professor Lynch, be even more aggressive, right? But yeah, I certainly wouldn't agree with the
Someone from the audience asked almost angrily, isn't it true? I think he was even maybe banging his fist on his head. Isn't it true that you can't have a stable democracy unless you have rule of law? And therefore, shouldn't those students go home? And I thought about it for a second. I mean, there's a case to be made, but I said, no, I don't think it's always true. I think sometimes the law has to be broken to pursue democracy. Just look at the American Civil Rights Movement, where you had some really awful laws, and if people hadn't been resisting and pushing, and sitting at lunch counters where African Americans weren't allowed to, if you don't push, then you won't advance. What I should have said was, just look at Sun Zhongshan and the Tongmeng Hui breaking Qing law. How dare they do? They should have been obediently following Qing law, and that probably would have scored. But then the way this got reported back in Taiwan, and I know because parents of Taiwan young people were sending me emails saying, did you really encourage the students to go out, and were you rabble-rousing, encouraging, inflaming? And finally I wrote kind of a form letter to respond to these parents who were terrified I was ruining the youth of Taiwan. But it wasn't like that at all. It's just kind of an
It was on video too.
Maybe he can speak
Translate.
with Mandarin or Taiwanese to the reporters about what we just said. I think that's very valuable information.
Yeah. 一届 conference 立法代表，个连其中一个发表者，伊个发表人开始讲，他就讲，我是中文啊。那个发表人开始说，我承认我是生来的，可是我要讲几点。他就说，学生需要听话，要礼貌啊，所以那个教授要教学生怎么听话，不能乱闹。然后那个 Lynch 教授就说，可是你看美国的历史，美国民主进步就是因为有些人敢站起来做一些当时是违法的事情，因为这个过程美国才进步。
不对，但是不只是这个，还有 he didn't just say, he didn't just ask, isn't the role of professors to teach students to be obedient? He asked, he said, you like democracy, obviously, because in my, I guess I signaled somehow I like democracy. And he said, well, if you like democracy, isn't order the foundation of all democracy? Social public order. And if that's true, if you can't have democracy unless you have social order, shouldn't you be encouraging those students to go back home and so on? And I said, and so it wasn't so much the role of the professor with students, it was more like, more kind of political science-y, what comes first, democracy or public order? And I said, some public orders are unjust and inconsistent with values that people in society hold. So you sometimes have to break the law to make better laws. But it did imply that the parents were worried I was violating my speech.
不过还好，全程都有被录下来，所以你有证据，所以被告的时候，你可以把。
还没有被告，不过而且林虎先生已经搬到阿德瓦，那么冷的地方。Please don't put that.
Oh, well. But just let you know that the KMT don't control the code in US, just in Taiwan.
There we go.
Whatever they control. Okay. This real really good information about how you defend the young people's movement. Also, regarding the topics, some DPP people, of course we have DPP here, some of them response that why choose these topics? Some of them thinking, DPP people thinking, oh no, KMT and DPP's general policy is why different? Why you say it's Inching? So do you have any explanation on that?
Yeah, I knew that the topic would annoy some people, that the finding would annoy. But if you're going to be, if you're going to do social science and you go there, I expected to find acrimonious disputes and people disagreeing with each other. That's not what I found. I found that people seem to be trying to reach out to each other and find some common ground. Not that they've arrived there yet. And if that's what I find, that's what I'm going to say. That's you don't want to play politics. And if you're an academic, you have to be faithful to the findings of the research results. And I'm not saying the history is over now and there's going to be harmony from now till the end of time. It's just and I think the key factor here is the super low popularity ratings of President Ma. That's, Suu Kyi and others on the, I keep mentioning him because he surprised me the most, and how nice and outgoing and friendly he wanted to be. And he must have known I'm kind of a green sympathizer, because I've met him on other occasions, and he even walked me down the 12 flights of stairs through the elevator. We didn't have to walk the stairs, the elevator, helped me to the taxi cab, made sure the driver knew where I was going. It was just, and again, he had DPP people on his board, and I just sensed this with everyone I was meeting. It's and it's because he was ousted by Ma Ying-jeou, former defense minister Yang. So many people have been ousted by Ma Ying-jeou, or he's tried to oust them and failed, that he's just alienated people on the blue side to the point where that, I think, is the precondition that is allowing people on the blue and the green to come an inch closer together. And on the China policies, it's because I discovered that even the deep blue people I talked to will not count as I didn't get to talk to Hao Bo-Swan. If I'd done that, maybe I have to revise my findings a little bit. But I can't imagine his sentiment, his views are shared by too widely at times. So, I like to annoy people too. But I don't mean annoy, that's not the right word. I like to be a little provocative if that's what I'm finding out.
Yeah.
I think it's good. It's good to talk.
Actually, this topic, what is going to talk about it next week is very current. And of course, a little bit controversy, but somehow the controversy topics make it good topics.
I hope so.
So I hope that the DD people can come over. If you don't like it, challenge it.
DPP people really upset about it?
No, just one or two.
Because I can always wear a bulletproof vest.
One, I guess.
Well, we have DPP people here anyway, so they are friendly.
Do you,
So-
do the DPP people here think it's not accurate factually, or maybe it is accurate factually, but you don't like it? If it's not accurate factually, then I should revise it. If it's accurate factually, you don't like it, well, I still have to report it, right? And you can go try to change things, right? But I still have to report my research finding.
Based on my own experience, I think you're right.
You think it's right? Okay. What can you give an example or two of illustrations? that-
No, maybe later.
Just a feeling? Oh, okay. It really is controversial. It really is controversial.
Okay.
Well, you kind of walked around with one of the issues that is a hot button issue, and that's the Sunflower Group. And I give you a warning now, our program's gonna be handed out, and I want you to see this is part of it. Give you a warning, but the wording that I collaborated with on a person, and I wasn't doing all of the writing, another member was doing the writing, but I did some ad-libbing, if you know what I mean. And written down there, and you'll see it, it says, "The sunflower is the seeds of life and the symbol of light that brightens the spirit of Taiwan." So you've got something to work on. I think this goes to the heart of the matter, and it didn't come from Daniel Lynch, it came from.
Blame it on Ted.
Yeah. Thank you.
The program, the Ted show is designed by Rex Yu. Of course, this is the draft. Okay, would be formally not really. Of course, in the program, Ted has some article called SIC. He's a good writer on Taiwan issues. And in the program, we recruit 2 young men and ladies to be the MC. The MC will be Vida Yang, Wendy Yang's sister. And also Jerry Liu is our secretary. And then also we have Sally Hong, specialty going to sing for us for America the Beautiful and God Bless Taiwan in the end. And then our program has question and answer session. Hope anybody want to ask a question, please have them come over. And also we have a summary translation by our attorney, Peter Chen. Of course, the program in here, we also have piano performance by a young senior in high school. And also, we have some other things. Maybe Catherine Young know about this program more. Our activity director, you want to tell everybody something, and then attract people to come over.
Actually, I think talking about everything already. So. But I like the media people can write something for us, because next Saturday had another big event, same time. So that's why this time. He is a very good speaker. I wish all the media people can come. If you'd like to come, I can give you the ticket for you.
I'm glad actually to find out, as I sort of thought it would be, that this is going to be a bit controversial an argument that I'm going to make, because I mean I can sort of use it as another phase in the research process. So I'll be throwing these ideas out, my findings, and getting a lot of hopefully feedback from the audience. So if people are disagreeing and have some evidence to cite, or they say I've just fundamentally mischaracterized the situation. Some Green friends were saying, for example, you may have talked to only older people who are more established, but younger people are really worried about finding jobs and so on like that. So those things I'm going to be jotting down. So it's going to be, I hope it's going to be back and forth, and not just another dull dinner speech. I'm sure everybody's been to before. Not at this organization, of course, but at other organizations. But no, really, if it is a little controversial and it generates a little discussion and some debate, I think that's going to make it really even more fun and interesting for me.